much for joining us on our latest edition of Proptech Collective Spotlight Series. Today we are thrilled to have Paayal Khanna, Director and Solution Architect at JLL with us today. My name is Danielle Smith. I am working with Intersect Core Logic here in Toronto, and I'm also one of the organizers of Proptech Collective on the events and programming side. Just a short intro of Proptech Collective, in case it's your first time joining us. We are a community platform that exists to bridge the information, diversity, and knowledge gap between the real estate and technology industries. We're a collective of real estate professionals, technologists, entrepreneurs, and community builders that believe technological innovation can change the built world for the better. This monthly Spotlight series highlights some of the amazing members and leaders in our community. I believe this is our 6th or 7th edition, and we're super excited to continue. I'm going to hand it over to my co-host Julia now to tell us about our amazing sponsor and partner who makes this Spotlight series possible. Julia.
Thanks, Danielle. Hi, everyone. My name is Julia. I'm a co-founder of Proptech Collective, and this has all been made possible because of our great partner, Dentons. And for those that are unfamiliar with Dentons, Dentons is the world's largest law firm and has been recognized as a leading firm in Canada on venture capital deals. Across Canada, the team advises angels, accelerators, venture capital funds, entrepreneurs, startups, established domestic and multinational businesses. So they work with everyone essentially in the creation, the acquisition, the use, and commercial exploitation of technology and associated intellectual property. So with this introduction into who we are, we'd love to also welcome Paayal to join us today. Paayal, how are you?
Hello, I'm well. How are you doing?
Very, very well. We're very happy to have you here. So let's kick it off. I guess first questions, like how about you tell us a little bit more about your story? I know you've had some amazing international experience coming from Mumbai to the US and now in Canada. So can you take us on a journey of how did you get into real estate?
Yes, absolutely. So it's been close to 6 years in real estate, being on the traditional side, real estate consulting, occupier consulting, to now being right at the intersection of real estate and technology. It's definitely been an exciting one over the past 6 years across the different continents and the cities. I started my career in JLL back in 2013 through campus placements. And one of the key reasons that I picked JLL was it was not one of the run-of-the-mill companies that came to campus. So all your financial services firm, your big four, I knew exactly what I would be getting into if I picked one of those, versus JLL was just that right mix of unknown. I researched real estate, I researched JLL. It wasn't that big at that point in Mumbai. And it was a calculated risk. I jumped right in, absolutely enjoyed my first 3 years at the company with a little bit of break to pursue my MBA in Boston. Which is when I had the opportunity to work with an education technology startup in Boston, which exposed me to the world of tech, edtech, and startup community in the US. And that was a whole different ride, the steepest learning curve, traveling around the country in meeting with other startups, and the tenacity that you need to be a part of a company, and especially the first employee for a startup. And that really opened my eyes to the startup community. So when I went back to Mumbai in 2018, I knew that I had to combine my experiences of being in the traditional real estate space for 3 years, and just 1 year of startup experience was enough for me to be interested and curious to dig the world of PropTech. So when I returned to Mumbai in 2018, I threw myself right at it. Everything that I could get my hands on with respect to technology and the real estate. So webinars, summits, the JLL Accelerator Program, Women Transforming Tech, speaking on some of the panels, just sharing my experience, learning and immersing myself in that new space, which was really bubbling in India to my surprise, really pushed the envelope for me in terms of my experience and what I knew of real estate as a sector. And cut to 2020, I found myself in Toronto in a completely new country, completely new market. And
during a pandemic as well.
During a pandemic, I feel like most times my decisions have been just that right amount of risk that makes me, I would not say uncomfortable, but shows me that opportunity for growth. Like it's not the complete no, and it's not guardrails have to work within, not a set framework that Paayal you have to follow. This is how it's been done for the past 20 years. Most of the experiences, the challenges I've picked have had the right amount of you're going to have to figure this out. There is no rule book to it, and you will have to work hard to find the right answer. So, all
So
of
how
those
did,
experiences. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
no, I was just gonna ask, like, so how did you obviously came here to Toronto, like how did you get into JLLT, like the technology side of it? Because obviously that was like a concerted effort because of your curiosity, right?
Absolutely. When I look back, and it's such a cliche, but it does hold so much truth, connecting the dots in hindsight. When you're going forward, it's very tough to reason why and how is that all going to make sense. And when I look back in hindsight, my experience, the first 3 years as a part of a traditional real estate company, JLL, back in India, was more of learning and just taking whatever I could get. So opportunities, projects, whatever was thrown at me, my answer was yes, I'll do it because I know I'm going to learn something new at it. But the past 4 years or 3 years have been more intentional in my career. So it's been very intentional moves for me to, I want to learn the skill. I want to get into prop tech, or I want to learn about technology in the real estate world. So the past 2 years heading the occupier consulting practice in India, like I mentioned, I grabbed every opportunity, collateral, or content I could to educate myself about what really is prop tech, what is the impact of technology in the real estate space. The moment that propelled me, or where I explicitly put down that, okay, this is really where I want to be, is the women transforming tech community in JLL. Had a scholarship for Future Proof Office that was being hosted by Dror Poleg and Anthony Slumbers. And I knew I wanted to be in that. I knew I wanted to know everything that's Future Proof Office. And they asked me to fill up a form, and they're like, where do you want to see yourself in the next 3 years? And that's when I feel I explicitly put down in paper saying, I want to be heading or leading or in the product side of technology in real estate. And I think that's when I made my actions more pointed, directed, and aggressively started following that path. I think it's just the set of experiences that set me up for an opportunity that I got from JLL Technologies in the US to lead the partnership between one of the startups and JLL, which perfectly culminated my experiences of the real estate knowledge, the edtech experience, and past years of educating myself on all things prop tech.
Wow. That is absolutely an incredible journey. And I have to say, like you, once you fall in love with the startup space, there absolutely is no going back. You just can't go back. So it's amazing that you've been able to blend that vibe and that passion at a large company, large global company like JLL. It's fantastic that they're moving into that direction. So now you've spent time with JLL in India, working in the occupier practice. And I mean, obviously, you've also worked, between Mumbai and the US and Canada and, other geographies. So in terms of like the occupier space, what are some trends that you've noticed going on within the occupier space, especially, I mean, now with so much change going on in the world? Can you talk about some of the changes you've seen?
Absolutely. It's interesting. I'll start with hometown. So Mumbai, back in India. It's interesting to see the startup ecosystem has just boomed in the past 5 years. And it's a combination of capital inflow, the people making a conscious decision to start companies, because now there's a little bit of more policy and guidelines and infrastructure from the government to support you creating a company or starting a company in the country. And then the winning point always for India is going to be the population. You cannot get bigger than 1 billion people or 1 billion consumers in a market. So I believe it's a combination of all of that moved Bombay or India from a traditional real estate, more old school style of startup to, okay, let's move ahead. But in terms of trends, especially in the prop tech space, foundationally, we're still lacking a lot of things. So I believe a lot of the technology is focused on water usage efficiency or energy efficiency and making our buildings more safer, versus more of the fancy of front end, how to make the consumer experience wow. And I would say that was the big focus that I saw in the US is how do we touch our employees? How do we really impact the engagement and the experience they have as they go through the journey in the office space? So definitely US is, I would say, at least 10 to 20 years ahead. And then Canada is the latest 10 for me. It's still fairly new. I've been here for 6 months, out of which 5 months I've been in lockdown. But I have to say, thanks to the amazing community, like PropTech in Julia was one of those people who just makes moving to a new country or city magical. So I have to mention that she was such a warm person to come to and be like, you're gonna get this, and it's an amazing community and it's an amazing country, and you're gonna love this market. So I would say I'm still in that journey of experiencing and exploring and learning everything that Toronto and Canada has to offer, and it's definitely an exciting space to be in. So I'm really looking forward to my experience here.
That's definitely a lot of change all at once and a lot to take in. So, and I can also vouch for Julia being one of the most helpful people around in the community. So, I mean, I know that you said you've been here now 6 months, and obviously 5 of those are, you know, in a lockdown situation. And so between Mumbai and the US and Canada, getting your MBA, going back to the traditional, and then getting back into the startup space, what are some of the challenges that you've maybe encountered during your journey of all of this amazing progression throughout the field?
I think I will point back to the point of the community. It makes a huge difference to find that the right set of people who act as enablers as you enter a new market. And I feel that has been a challenge, but I also have to say that has been the most exciting part of moving around is getting to meet so many amazing people, smart people with such different perspectives. So it's definitely a challenge when you're getting started, but once you have that right community and you surround yourself with people who genuinely want the best for the community as a whole, is life-changing. And that's really what I live for, I would say, is when I make a move to a new city or a country.
Yeah, and you know, you'd mentioned that, you know, it's always best when you're slightly out of your comfort zone, and that's when you're going to learn the most. And I think, you know, the Canadian PropTech community, just to observe the past couple of years, how much it has just boomed, and the enthusiasm that's around it. So it's a great time for you to sort of have jumped into the deep end here in Canada. We're glad to have you.
There's going to be lots of learning. I can foresee it in the future. But so moving, obviously, like moving from the occupier practice now to JLL Technologies, I'm curious to know, like, can you help our audience understand how JLL is collaborating with tech companies today?
The learning has been phenomenal. Again, I think benefit is because it's not an established space. No one can very confidently come out and say that I am a leader in all things real estate PropTech. All of us are learning. All of us are in it for the right reasons, because there is this bigger purpose that we all want to get towards. But the way JLL Technologies is looking at the space is the first right thing that they did is have it set up as its own entity. The focus needs to be technology first and then real estate, because we are so wired over and it's a decades and decades old sector, and we know that, but it's very easy to go back to what you know or jump back to your comfort zone or get propelled back. So the one thing I truly believe they did right, and that's why I very easily got pulled into the direction that they're going, is set it up as its own entity and let it stand on its own 2 feet before you integrate it with the larger company. So the people came from a technology background. They brought in a different perspective from different markets to now come in with the preconceived notions of how things should work. And in terms of how we partner with new technologies and companies, they have a philosophy of build, buy, or partner. So we're building our own technology because now we have a very, very powerful engineering team. And we have dabbled with creating our own products, and I have to admit openly, where we probably didn't take the right approach, and we got a lot of learnings, but now we have enough learnings to do it right. And that's the build side of it. Buy is, again, as it just truly represents, is just acquire companies that have already done it right. Why reinvent the wheel when they have shown the dominance in knowledge, expertise in a certain space? And then partner, the third category, is similar to buy in terms of we've identified a company that's doing it right, has identified the key pain points, and has created a solution with a minimum viable product that we can bring to our clients. And that's something our clients have been asking for. And that is actually the space even that I am working very closely in, is leading the partnership for JLL with Saltmine, which is one of our new investments as well as global partnerships.
So tell me more about Saltmine. I want to know everything about it. So for the audience, can you just start off maybe with what Saltmine is and what they do?
Saltmine does is today, the services of occupancy planning for a large enterprise company, the services of workplace strategy, occupancy planning, test fit, design. The typical transaction process is when a client chooses a space, they want to strategize how many people can be there, what's the mobility factors, how much space do we need, all the supply and demand that we do at a macro level, to test fits that now we know what space we want to be in and how many people we want in there. But what would it look like? Like, how can we lay out the people and get a good understanding to designing the office, which is, okay, let's get to it. Let's design this awesome, amazing office that's going to increase engagement, increase productivity. And that's the key focus for every single client we're talking to this year is, I need to retweak how I build my office space for, because the purpose for which it was built no longer exists. We've changed why we want people to come into office. But today, these set of processes are done in silos, in disjointed processes and tools. And Saltmine is integrating and cutting across business lines. So typically, these functions rest in very siloed business lines. So even at a client side, you'll have very different set of people who take responsibility for each of these. But Saltmine is stepping in and asking our enterprise clients to rethink, why do these three have to be siloed? Or why do these four functions have to be siloed? Why can't they flow from 1 to 2 to 3 in a single platform? And you as a client have visibility right from start to the end and collaborate within the space. Why do you want to spam 20 people who are part of the project with offline desktop-based applications or files? So that really where Saltmine fits in the larger corporate real estate value chain.
That's super interesting. And I think now they're probably, the traction is just like a hockey stick curve as everyone's rethinking that the space that they're in. But curious to understand, like, how is JLL like helping Saltmine in this, I guess, process?
Okay. The biggest benefit and leverage to a startup working with JLL, or specifically JLL Technologies, is the size of the parent company, JLL. With 90,000 employees and with over 8 billion of revenue, we touch almost 60 to 70% of clients or buildings globally. And real estate, I'm sure we'll all agree, is a relationships business, and our relationships with the clients go deep and span many, many years. So the biggest benefit or value that a startup feels when they work with a company like JLL Technologies or JLL is not only they get the right structure, platform, and an operating model from JLL Technologies, which is built as a tech company, but they get the benefits of touching on the clients or getting in front of the clients that JLL services today, which is a massive opportunity for a startup that's just starting in that space. And as I'm leading the partnership for JLL and Saltmine, I'm going through that process myself, is working with the team to how do we bring this in front of clients? How do we introduce it? Because it's not a given that just because you're a partner, we're going to stick it to a client. We still have to solution it. We still have to identify what is the client's pain point. And for some of them, it may not be a fit. And we just be like, okay, no, we generally don't think this company is right for you, or the way you run your process is very different. versus companies where we know are struggling because the large size of the portfolio and everything being disjointed. So the biggest would be the network of clients, the direction and set of resources that JL would put to make sure that growth story is a success. Um, and then any additional resources that they would need as a company in the real estate space, as to how do we grow, how do we scale, and then obviously investment can be a part of it. Is if they're looking for raising funds and JLL believes in the company, then we'd have our skin in the game as well.
Fantastic. It's always, like you said, it's always so imperative. You have your early believers as a startup to give you that momentum to keep growing forward. So it's fantastic to see that you're contributing to that. So we've talked a little bit about some of the trends that you have sort of seen in the occupier space, and obviously, the office of the future is everyone's sort of talk, right now. Are there any other sort of trends or technologies that you've come across or that you're following really closely right now that you think can grow some really great legs and keep growing forward in 2021 and beyond?
I have to be honest, I wish there was one answer where I would be like, this is it and this is going to be the global direction. But having worked in the different markets, the priorities for companies to address pain points is drastically different. So definitely the developed markets, like the Americas or Europe, we're seeing the trends be more focused on tenant experience and a day in the office. And those excite me because as an employee who probably will go through that journey myself, it's very exciting to be like, wow, that's an elevation. Basically, I have a CV for my entire experience in the office. Yes, I'm going to order my coffee on the app. But so that's definitely exciting from a personal level, but from a business in a larger scheme of things, I'm very, very curious and invested in the sustainability trends and companies that are coming up with some powerful technologies to really make an impact. And that's a little bit closer to my heart. So those are the two that I see more in the developed market. But again, like I said, in the developing markets or the emerging markets, the pain points are a little bit deeper or more ingrained in the foundation of buildings and the infrastructure and the architecture of building the spaces and being smarter about using those spaces as well.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, this is something that we've talked about quite a lot at Proptech Collective is, the greenification and the sustainability factors of, both buildings themselves as well as cities as a whole of really, really waking up and paying attention to these things and, how we're thinking about the built world, both to, fix previous things that are no longer working, as well as sort of imagine things for making cities better in the future. So we are right alongside you with that passion for that area as well.
But
great.
So Paayal, like we obviously have you here and we'd love to kind of turn it over to you again to see if you have any asks for our community. Like our community just generally, as you know, is like quite helpful, wants to, authentically be there to really improve the I guess, built world that we live in. So curious to know any asks that you have for our audience.
I would say being new to the Canadian PropTech space and in Toronto, I would love to have as many conversations or anyone who's willing to just grab a cup of coffee, if not virtually, or just chat about what they're up to. I'd be very curious to learn as much as I can. So it almost feels like more of a selfish ask, but please let's connect. And I just want to learn what you're doing, what space you're in. And I feel that the best way I will learn about the community is about the market is through people's experiences working in the space. So I think my ask is just please reach out and let's chat.
It's an awesome ask, and I love how forward you are about it, because if you don't ask, nothing happens. So just watch, your LinkedIn is gonna be flooded.
Love it. I'm gonna be prompt on that for sure.
Definitely, for sure. So there's always a fun sort of section that we end off with all of our spotlight series, and it's what we call rapid fire questions for our esteemed guest speakers. It's fun, and so that it's no pressure. It's just sort of like a quick on the spot, on the fly sort of questions that we ask you. So if you could go anywhere outside of Canada, I mean, just think about that right now. We're all pretty homebound. What is the first place outside of Canada you are planning on traveling to when it's safe to do so?
There would be two answers, but my first answer is Europe, and I keep saying Croatia. But the honest answer is I actually want to go back home and visit family. So that's why I said I have a two-pronged answer to that. Sorry, not as rapid.
Yeah, it'd be a two-leg trip. That's all.
Yeah, that's it. Like a small detour for sure.
Exactly.
How about a book that you always recommend to friends?
The Becoming by Michelle Obama. That's the book that got me to become a reader, resonate with it so strongly, and a big fan of Michelle Obama was reading that book. And it's not the same as the documentary on Netflix. It's not the same.
Good. It's definitely on my list as well. So that's one more accolade for me bumping that up on my reading list for sure. So, I mean, this is a very easy question that I would answer in like 2 seconds. Are you a morning or an evening person?
Is that for work or for partying? I'm a morning person for sure.
Okay, yeah, I'm definitely a night owl. That's where all the things flow in my head. It's funny how people are just different with that.
All right, Paayal, you are invited on the first commercial space flight. Would you go?
Ooh, is that who owns that flight?
I think it's Elon Musk at this point. He's the first. Yeah, he's the first in the race.
I think yes. If it's a calculated risk with just enough scope to learn, why not? Why not?
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's that's. I think my answer would likely be I'll let other people go first and I'll see how it goes. I would be a fast follow, definitely. And one more question to round us out here. You've given us a ton of insight and a ton of knowledge from all of your experience. Is there a quote that you live by?
Oh, I have to say no, because every phase of my life it's changed. And I know it again sounds a cliche, but like I mentioned, my first few years of my career were more tell me what to do and like teach me. But the past 4 years have been very intentional. So I feel with every year, something that grows. But right now, and I usually put that on my phone. Crap, I wish I had my phone right now. But right now, actually, it's just as grateful because of everything we went through last year. I felt I have so much that if I ask for something more, just feels wrong. But I wish there was just one single, but I feel it just changes with the different phase I'm in with life.
That's definitely valid. But I think one common thread that I would think of if someone would say, is there a quote that you would think of related to Paayal and what she sort of thinks about life? I would say, you don't do any growing in your comfort zone. So, I mean, I think that would apply all the way through. I think that would be a good one for you, for sure.
Oh, good. Thanks. I'm stealing and writing it down.
There you go. A community contribution just for you.
Oh, love it. I'm curious. Can I throw that question back to you and Julia? It's a nice one.
Yeah, honestly, I'd say that applies to me as well. I do like quite a lot of structure when it comes to things. And, this year, as many people have experienced, it's, I don't want to hear the word unprecedented one more time in my life, but it really was like nothing anyone has ever seen before. And there were many, many uncomfortable moments as, pivoting the way that we do our work and not seeing people and what have you. So I definitely would agree that you don't do any growing in your comfort zone. And I've seen that very firsthand this past year.
And I think from my perspective, and this is going to sound very colloquial, but I think it's just funny, but the saying of YOLO, you only live once. I think that is literally something that every time a new opportunity came by that I thought that I could learn a lot of, not necessarily sure if I'd be great at it or not, I just kind of dove head first into to kind of learn that, right? So it's been something that has I don't know, helped me to have less regrets in life. So that's maybe a quote that I would live by. But
Fantastic. And is Gen Z approved?
yeah, Gen Z approved, exactly. Me and the youngins.
Right?
Do they approve it or do they have their own version of?
I don't know.
It changes every 5 minutes, so you know.
We'll have to scope it out, but
I hope they're not going to leave us bad comments on this video, but no.
we don't use it anymore.
Exactly.
Paayal, thank you so much, honestly, for joining us today and sharing a lot about your journey and how exciting it's been. Obviously, you've had a perspective that has gone all the way from Asia now to the US and North America and Canada as well. And we're very lucky to have you here helping us grow the prop tech and just the scene and help us like really make a dent into how we can actually, you know, improve the built world. So for everyone who's looking to get in touch, Paayal, you can find her on LinkedIn, and we look forward to seeing you at our next spotlight.
Thanks,
Thank
everyone.
you for having me. It was a pleasure.